So we've started a new series, and it's called Principle 1335. And this is a course that I developed a few years back in response to a lady who was experiencing some conflict with a fella at church. And even though this is about kind of it will be presented within the context of church settings, it is so relevant to relationships, matter of fact, also employment situations. And today what we're talking about is micro resentments are the seeds of major problems. Now, micro resentments come to every relationship. It doesn't matter where you're at, whether it's in a church or with in a marriage, or on the job, or in friendships. Micro resentments come to every relationship. But if you mismanage these, when they come into your heart, you will always face bigger problems down the road, guaranteed. So in this series, we're going to be teaching you some key principles to loving communication, even when it's hardest to communicate. So stay tuned. Karen, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. I'm excited about this new series.
Yeah.
And I think that the big problem with it is that people are going to see it, and they're going to see it, kind of like with the church context overlaid on the bigger principles that are at work in it. And I hope that people can see past that, because it's really the principles that we're talking about. And of course, Principle 1335 is based on a passage of scripture where it says, and Jesus says to his disciples, that by this all men will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. And so our communication always has to be in the direction of showing and demonstrating love to others. But what exactly that looks like is somewhat of a mystery oftentimes. So I have a little, this is a video promo that I created for the course. And we're going to look at that. But it also has some important ideas kind of like in that promo. Now, it's just the way that these videos are structured is that we cannot appear on the screen at the same time. I guess I just thought of a way that we could do that, but I'm not going to make that change right now. But we're going to watch the video, and then we'll have a chance to react to it. So let's go ahead and we'll watch this video at this time.
All right.
Hey, one of the things that we're doing for the folks in our Beyond Betrayal group on Facebook is that we're giving them free access to Principle 1335, the whole course. And I can't remember what the normal price for that is, but I know that it's considerable savings whenever you're talking about free. So,
Or as my brother says, free 99.
there you go, free 99. So that little video that we just watched was about everybody comes into a relationship with their own set of tools to do conflict.
Yeah.
What are some of the tools that you had in your toolkit when you came into a relationship in your marriage? And what are some of the tools that you're learning?
Man, this is a hard question.
Okay. Well, you can ask me that question then.
Wait, I just have a little joke though.
Okay.
One of the rules was I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever I say, whatever you say bounces off me and sticks onto you.
Uh, oh man, where'd you learn that joke in elementary school? So, yeah.
Why don't you go first, and then maybe it will spur me on to think about something.
Okay. So, my wife and I, we've been married now for over 50 years. And coming into our relationship, and we've talked about a number of different things, is that we both have have come into the relationship as as, as somewhat conflict avoidant and also people pleasers. And when you get, conflict avoidant and two folks together, a lot of times that things don't get resolved. And then when we'd end up getting into some sort of conflict, and conflicts don't have to be like major blowouts in a relationship, but when we would get into those, that we each had our style. And I think that although that we've grown over the years, we're still not like perfect in how we do that, you know.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I learned, one of the things that I learned along the way was how to what I call speak up and show up in a relationship. And that's where a lot of times what happens is that when we have a beef with our partner or our boss or whoever else, is that we don't know how to speak up or show up in the relationship in a way that that doesn't trigger defensiveness. And so I spent a long time trying to kind of, because my wife would always see, the train wreck coming whenever, there was a concern, and I say, hey, we need to talk about something. And then, that it was easy to feel, that she was under attack or whatever else, So, and same with me, coming back on my direction. So it wasn't until I spent probably years learning new communication skills, and eventually it all came together, and I began to understand, okay, this is the secret. And I think that some of the things that we're going to be talking about in this broadcast can really go a long way to making your life a lot less complicated and learning how to show up and speak up in a relationship. So but it's interesting. It's almost like we have and I'm convinced of this. It just seems like almost everybody I've ever met has what I would say is almost like a built-in way of doing conflict that's unproductive. And
Right.
you stop and think about it. You're raising a couple of teenagers right now, and are they very skilled at doing conflict?
Yeah, they're great at doing it.
Not so much at managing it, huh? Yeah. And that's
Well,
true. You look at kids; it's just the same thing. It's like we're pre-programmed to do it wrong, or manage it wrong. You
yeah,
know.
yeah.
So that.
I'll tell you while you were talking, it made me think of something. Is that
Mm-hmm.
um, one of the tools that I came into, but I'm learning how to better
Mm-hmm.
utilize is a lot of times I try to simplify like a request when I'm
Yeah.
going to my husband or something. Like, for example, today I have a car problem, and I was
Mm-hmm.
texting him and saying, "Hey, when is a good time that we can get this taken care of?"
Mm-hmm.
Uh, um, he didn't get to be like brought along because I was already
Mm-hmm.
trying to like edit the information down and
Yeah.
instead of involving him to be part of the solution,
The
you know,
process. Yeah.
the process. So,
Hmm.
um, sometimes it's just a matter of like we think I always think what I'm doing is the best way to do it, you know?
Yeah, really.
I'm
Yeah.
always doing it out of like kindness or,
Hmm.
I think this is going to work out well. And then a lot of times things backfire because the other person isn't thinking
Speaking
the
of
same
cars,
way
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
thinking.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, we could say so much more about that, but what I want to do is move on, and
Mhm.
so let's. But that idea is that we all have our own toolkits,
Yeah.
and most of our toolkits are woefully inadequate or lacking. And
Yeah.
so we need to add some more tools to our toolkit. So I have another video that we're going to watch, and again, we're going to drop off the screen. But this is, as I said, is that this is all within the context of church conflict. But when you begin to see the principles behind this, that I think it will open up a whole new way of understanding for doing relationship conflict. So let's
Yeah.
just go ahead and watch this video at this time.
Plans were going great for the women's event until one particular team meeting. Taylor brought up a few of what she thought were good ideas. Destiny shot them down, each and every one. That surprised and hurt Taylor, but she didn't let on that she was hurt. She kept smiling and bottled up her hurt inside like she normally does. She prides herself on being a team player and doesn't like to do anything to rock the boat, but she was hurt, and that hurt was starting to do its work. She didn't say much the rest of the meeting. She just let Destiny do her thing. On the drive home, however, thoughts started to creep into Taylor's heart. She thought about what went on at the meeting. She couldn't get it out of her mind. Different strands began weaving a larger theme. She's so bossy. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. She does this all the time. I'm not the only one she shuts down and treats like this. Destiny is so full of herself and thinks that she's the only one with good ideas. She thinks that she's better than everyone else. Probably I should just drop out of the team altogether. After all, I'm busy enough with my family, the kids' after-school activities, and my Tuesday Bible study group. I've got a lot on my plate already. And on and on. In the next lesson, you'll discover how Christians typically mismanage conflict by letting it deepen and sowing discord. First, however, finish the balance of this lesson.
Okay, so anything jump out at you as we were going through that?
Yeah. I tend to bottle up hurts too and not want to talk about
Hmm.
them because like a lot of times if it's either I'll get emotional, like angry, like
Hmm.
frustrated with the person and might say something that later, or just makes the problem worse or whatever. Or sometimes, like if I'm sad, I don't like crying in front of people. And so, those feelings will well up quickly. And I'm like, start getting choked up and then I'm get all embarrassed and everything. So,
Yeah, yeah. You know, one of the things, and this gets back to the theme at the top of the show that we were talking about, where we're talking about micro resentments. That
Mhm.
there was a breakdown in the relationship where Taylor had a micro resentment towards Destiny.
Mhm.
But notice on the drive home the internal monologue
Yeah.
that's going on. So when we
Right.
have a micro resentment with somebody, whether it's a spouse or a boss or a friend or somebody at school or whatever, when we have a micro resentment that we that's those things kind of like lodge in our brain,
Mhm.
and we start to
Yeah.
ruminate on them. And what we do is that we begin to spin out a story,
Mhm.
a narrative in our own head about this. Now,
And you
what
form
we're
a belief about that person,
I say what?
You start to form a belief about that person.
And what were some of the things when, if you happen to pick up on it when we were going through that video? What were some of the things that Taylor started to think about destiny.
Like that she only cares about herself and like her, it's all about her,
And you
which is
notice, huh? Say what?
ironic.
Yeah. But you notice what's going on is that we begin developing. It's like a painting. When you paint or you draw, you create, you block out what you're doing, and then you start to color in the lines, and then you fill in the details. And that's what she's doing. She's filling in essentially a negative image of Taylor. She's so bossy. She's such a control freak. She always wants to have her way. She shoots down all of my ideas, and so she starts to complete this painting with all of these dark and unflattering colors. This happens all the time.
Yeah.
In all of our relationships, is that we tend to. I tell people, and the people whom I coach, I always tell them is that we're always the hero of our own story. When you think about your internal narrative, is that you're always the hero. When you go in and you talk with the person, in your head before you go in, is that, oh, I can see how all this is going to go, or if you just decide I'm going to step back. Well, Taylor, in this case, she steps back because she's the hero of her own story. Well, I'm such a good person. I'm really busy, and I got other stuff on my plate, and blah blah blah. She's starting to tell herself, plant those seeds. But the real problem with this is that she's not managing micro resentments well.
Mm-hmm.
And I know in my own life is that if I don't manage my micro resentments well, that they always take root and they begin to contaminate my relationship with that person.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that, like, we went to a marriage retreat one time, and one of the things that like stood out to me was that the enemy, he wants to kill, steal, and destroy anything that's good or of God. And your marriage is something that God wants you to, like, typically a healthy marriage, God's like trying, his view is to keep things going in a healthy direction, get things back on track, and a lot of times we don't see people the way God sees them, and we get in that whole pattern of like, more like how the enemy talks, and listening to our feelings instead of listening to like, okay, how does God see this person? What would be a healthy way to bring them back, and what would be in their best interest, not just in my best interest, but in our best interest,
Yeah. But we're going to be talking about this as this series unfolds. And so I'm just going to go ahead and bring it to a close right now. Do you have anything else that you'd like to mention before we wrap up?
Yeah, I would say, like, don't speak for others in your mind, like she didn't even give the one gal a chance to be able to answer. Like, she's just making all these assumptions about what the other might think, how they are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, all righty. Well, I'm going to go ahead and we'll end it there. One of the things that I want to remind you is that you have you can find all of our resources that we're constantly putting out on Facebook at beyondbetrayal.org. That's a private group on Facebook, beyondbetrayal.org. And what we're giving to anyone who joins that private Facebook group is free access to our Principle 1335 curriculum that you can use just as a personal guide for yourself, or you can teach it in a small group, or, with some of your friends or whatever else. And so I hope that you'll connect with us in our group on Facebook at beyondbetrayal.org. That's it for now. I hope that you'll join us next time.